Good evening and welcome to your thesis statement notes. You should have your notes out in front of you so that you can fill in the blanks as we go. And then by the end of this PowerPoint, you should have a rough draft of your thesis statement for your literary analysis paragraph completed to turn in tomorrow. So we'll begin with the basic definition of a thesis statement. We're going to start with the two parts that a thesis statement is made up of: an argument and three organizers. So for this paper, your argument will be the theme of the short story you have chosen. Your organizers for this paper will be three elements of fiction that portray the theme in your short story. So a thesis statement is extremely important because it tells the reader how you will interpret the significance of the subject matter that you're discussing in your paper. So again, for this paper, that subject matter would be the theme of your short story. Thesis statements can also be considered the roadmap for your paper, because by looking at your thesis statement, readers should know exactly the theme that you're arguing, and then also the arguments that you're making. So they'll know the three elements of fiction that you're going to discuss through that theme by reading your thesis statement before they even start to navigate your paper. Thesis statements should directly answer the question that is asked of you. So again, for this paragraph, you're arguing for the theme in either the interlopers or two friends. So therefore, your thesis must offer some sort of way to understand the theme that you've chosen. Thesis statements make a claim that others could argue about. So this thesis statement should be an original argument that you're making about what lesson you've learned from the story. And lastly, a thesis statement is a single sentence, and it should not be any more than one sentence to simply state your theme and then your elements of fiction. Before we look at an example theme statement, I want to go through the 4 parts that you should have in your thesis statement of your analysis paragraph. The first one is the author's first and last name. You should also have the short story title in quotes, your 3 elements of fiction, and then 1 theme statement. Again, make sure that your theme statement is a sentence and not simply a 1 or 2 word statement. So let's begin with an example thesis statement to show you what I would expect for this paper. And I've constructed one on Harrison Bergeron. So I've said, in Harrison Bergeron, Kurt Vonnegut uses conflict, indirect characterization, and setting to argue that total equality is not an idea worth striving for because it will corrupt society. My 3 organizers are conflict, indirect characterization, and setting. Notice how all of these are elements of fiction, and it is clear by reading this thesis statement that I will discuss conflict first, and then indirect characterization, and lastly, setting. And I am using those to argue for the theme that is in purple here, that total equality is not an idea worth striving for because it will corrupt society. So again, this is a theme sentence, not a 1 or 2 word subject. I've also included my short story title in quotes and the author's name. Lastly, you should notice that I have an argument verb here. You need to tell me that the author is arguing for the particular lesson or message that the story gives off. So other words that you could possibly use would be illustrates, demonstrates, argues, as I have there. Any sort of argument verb such as those would be fine. So if we look at the bottom here, you'll see that I have a sample recipe for your thesis statement of your paper. So again, as you look here, you have in whatever short story, you have chosen, the interlopers are two friends. Saki or Guy de Maupassant uses your three elements of fiction to argue, illustrate, or demonstrate, and then your theme statement. So at the bottom of your paper, simply follow this thesis recipe model, construct a draft of your thesis statement to bring in and turn in to us tomorrow, and we will check those for you to make sure all of you are on the right track before starting your analysis paragraph. Please cut off the bottom and write your name on the bottom of that so it's ready to turn in tomorrow. Thanks, and I hope you have a great evening.